So, here you are, lying in the dark, and right now, without any effort from you, your body is doing thousands of things at once. Your heart is beating. Your lungs are filling and emptying. Somewhere deep inside your gut, enzymes are breaking apart the food you ate earlier, turning it into molecules small enough to pass through the wall of your intestine and into your blood. Your immune system is quietly patrolling, checking for anything that should not be there. Your kidneys are filtering. Your liver is processing. Your blood is moving. Your brain is taking vibrations in the air and turning them into language, memory, meaning. You did not ask any of this to happen. It is just happening. All of it. Right now in the dark. And tonight, we are going to slowly walk through the strange, beautiful machine that is the human body, not in a rushed way, not as a list of organs and facts, but as a calm journey through the systems that keep you alive, the discoveries that helped us understand them, and the quiet miracles that are happening inside you every second. Because the human body is one of the most complex systems anyone has ever tried to understand. More complex than any bridge, any spacecraft, any city, any computer network. And yet it builds itself. It repairs itself. It runs on food, water, air, and sleep. And most of the time, you do not have to think about it at all. But for most of human history, the inside of the body was a mystery. People could see the outside, skin, eyes, hair, the shape of muscles moving under the surface. They could see blood from a wound, breath in cold air, sweat on the forehead. But what was actually happening inside? That was guesswork. Sometimes brilliant guesswork, sometimes beautiful, sometimes it was completely wrong. In ancient Egypt, around 1600 BCE, there was a medical text known today as the Edwin Smith Papyrus. What makes it remarkable is how practical it was. It described injuries, diagnoses, treatments, and likely outcomes. It even mentioned the brain, and it noticed something very real. Damage to one side of the brain could affect the opposite side of the body. That was not superstition. That was careful observation. And yet, even with that kind of observation, the Egyptians still believed the heart was the center of thought and intelligence. The brain, to them, did not look important. It did not beat like the heart. It did not expand like the lungs. It just sat there, soft and gray and silent. So during mummification, they preserved the heart, the liver, the lungs, the intestines. But the brain was often removed and discarded. The organ that makes you who you are was treated almost like waste. And in a way, you can understand why. The heart feels dramatic. When you are afraid, you feel it pound. When you are excited, you feel it race. When you are in love, you feel it in your chest. So of course people imagined that the heart was where the self lived. It would take thousands of years to untangle that mistake. In ancient Greece, a physician named Hippocrates helped shift medicine in a new direction. His most important idea was not one specific discovery. It was the claim that disease had natural causes, not curses, not angry gods, not evil spirits. Natural causes that could be observed, reasoned about, and treated. That sounds obvious now. But at the time, it was revolutionary. Hippocrates and his followers believed in the theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. They thought health depended on keeping these fluids in balance. The theory was wrong, but it was wrong in a useful way. It encouraged doctors to look for patterns, to observe symptoms, to think about diet, environment, and lifestyle. A wrong framework can still move knowledge forward if it teaches people to look carefully. Then came Galen, a physician in the Roman world who became one of the most influential figures in medical history. Galen was brilliant, confident, and enormously productive. He treated gladiators, which gave him unusual access to injuries that revealed muscles, tendons, and organs. He learned from the wounded body in a way few physicians could. But Galen had a problem. Human dissection was not allowed in his world, so he studied animals. Pigs, monkeys, dogs, goats. Then he assumed that human bodies were basically the same. Sometimes they were close, sometimes they were not. Galen described structures in humans that humans do not actually have. He believed blood was made in the liver, flowed outward through the body, and was consumed by the tissues like fuel. He believed blood passed from one side of the heart to the other, through tiny invisible pores in the wall between the chambers. Those pores do not exist. The wall is solid. But because Galen's authority became so great, his mistakes survived for more than 1,000 years. Anatomists would open human bodies, fail to find what Galen described, and assume they were wrong. Not Galen. That is one of the strange lessons in the history of science. Sometimes people trust an old book more than the thing lying directly in front of them. The person who helped break that spell was Andreas Vesalius. Vesalius was born in Brussels in 1514. He was fascinated by anatomy from a young age. When he studied medicine, anatomy was still taught in a strange way. A professor sat above the room reading Galen, while someone else cut the body below. The book was treated as the truth. The body was almost treated as an illustration of the book. Vesalius could not accept that. He performed his own dissections. He looked for himself. And he began to see that Galen had made serious mistakes. In 1543, Vesalius published On the Fabric of the Human Body. It was one of the most important anatomy books ever printed, filled with beautiful illustrations and direct corrections of ancient errors. He showed that the human jaw is one bone, not two. He showed that the wall between the chambers of the heart has no invisible pores. He showed that human anatomy had to be studied in humans, not simply assumed from animals. The medical establishment was furious. Some people defended Galen so fiercely that they suggested the human body must have changed since Galen's time. But Vesalius was right, and slowly medicine began to shift from authority to observation. Look at the thing itself, measure it, test it, see what is actually there. That shift made the next great discovery possible, the circulation of blood. For centuries, people believed blood was produced by the liver and used up by the body. It flowed outward like water soaking into soil. There was no loop, no return trip, no circulation. Then came William Harvey. Harvey was an English physician born in 1578. He studied at Padua, one of the great centers of anatomy, and became fascinated by the movement of the heart. He watched beating hearts in animals. He observed how they contracted. He realized that the heart did its work when it squeezed, not when it expanded. The heart was not sucking blood in like a bellows. It was pushing blood out like a pump. That alone was important. But Harvey did something even more powerful. He did the math. He estimated how much blood the heart pushed out with each beat. Even using conservative numbers, the total amount of blood pumped in an hour was enormous. Under Galen's model, the liver would have to create hundreds of pounds of new blood every hour, and the body would have to consume it just as fast. That was impossible. You do not eat enough food to create that much blood. Your body cannot be making and burning blood in that way. The only explanation that made sense was that the same blood was moving again and again, out through the arteries, back through the veins, around and around, a circuit, a circulation. The little one-way valves and veins, which had been described before but not fully understood, suddenly made sense. They allowed blood to move back toward the heart, especially from the legs, where it had to fight gravity. When your muscles contract, they squeeze the veins and push blood upward. The valves stop it from falling back down. Harvey published his work in 1628. He did not just say blood circulated. He showed why it had to. There was still one missing piece. Harvey knew blood somehow got from the smallest arteries to the smallest veins, but he could not see how. That final proof came later, when Marcello Malpighi used a microscope to see capillaries, tiny vessels so narrow that red blood cells have to squeeze through them one by one. The circuit was complete, and that circuit is running inside you right now. Your body contains around 60,000 miles of blood vessels. Most of that length is made of capillaries, woven through almost every tissue. Arteries are the highways. Capillaries are the narrow local streets where the real deliveries happen. Oxygen dropped off, carbon dioxide picked up, nutrients delivered, waste collected. Almost every living cell in almost every tissue of your body is close to a capillary. That is not an accident. That is design shaped by survival. At the center of it all is the heart. Your heart is really two pumps in one. The right side receives oxygen-poor blood from the body and sends it to the lungs. There, the blood releases carbon dioxide and picks up oxygen. Then it returns to the left side of the heart, which sends it out to the whole body. The left side is thicker and stronger because it has the harder job. It must push blood not just to the lungs, but to your brain, your arms, your legs, your skin, your kidneys, your fingertips, your toes. And it does this again and again, about 100,000 times a day, about 35 million times a year, billions of times in a lifetime. The heart even has its own electrical system. A small group of specialized cells called the sinoatrial node acts as a natural pacemaker. It sends out an electrical impulse that spreads through the heart, coordinating the contraction of the chambers. First, the atria squeeze. Then there is a tiny pause. Then the ventricles squeeze, sending blood into the arteries. The whole sequence takes less than a second, and then it repeats. The sound of the heartbeat, that familiar lub-dub, is not actually the sound of the muscle squeezing. It is the sound of valves closing. The first sound comes when valves between the upper and lower chambers shut, stopping blood from flowing backward. The second comes when valves leading out of the heart close, preventing blood from returning from the arteries. Lub-dub, doors closing at exactly the right moment. And the vessels that carry this blood are not just passive pipes, they are alive. Their walls can narrow or widen. When you exercise, blood vessels feeding your muscles open wider. When you are cold, vessels near your skin narrow to conserve heat. When you digest a meal, more blood moves toward your gut. Your body is constantly deciding where blood is needed most. Quietly, automatically, without your permission. But what is blood, really? When you see it, it looks like a simple red liquid. But if you could shrink down and drift inside a blood vessel, you would find something far more crowded. A moving river, filled with cells, proteins, dissolved gases, nutrients, hormones, waste, and chemical signals. The most common cells in that river are red blood cells. A single drop of blood contains millions of them. Your body contains trillions. They are shaped like soft, flexible discs, pinched slightly in the center. That shape gives them more surface area and allows them to bend through capillaries that are narrower than the cells themselves. Their main job is to carry oxygen. Inside each red blood cell is hemoglobin, a protein containing iron. Hemoglobin binds oxygen in the lungs and releases it in tissues that need it. It does not hold oxygen too tightly. It responds to the environment. Where oxygen is abundant, it loads up. Where oxygen is low, where tissues are working and producing carbon dioxide, it lets go. That is why the system is so efficient. The iron in hemoglobin is also why blood is red. Oxygen-rich blood is bright red. Blood that has already delivered oxygen is darker red, not blue. Veins only look blue through the skin because of how light travels through tissue. Alongside red blood cells are white blood cells, the immune system's mobile defenders. Some, like neutrophils, rush toward infection and engulf bacteria. Others, like lymphocytes, recognize specific threats and build targeted responses. There are also platelets, tiny fragments that help stop bleeding. When a blood vessel is damaged, platelets come sticky, gather at the wound, and help form a clot. Then, a cascade of proteins creates fibrin, a thread-like mesh that strengthens the plug. This has to be balanced perfectly. Too little clotting, and you bleed too easily. Too much, and clots can form inside vessels where they do not belong. The body is always walking a narrow line. Blood also contains plasma, the pale liquid that carries everything else. Water, salts, hormones, proteins, glucose, antibodies, waste products, and dissolved carbon dioxide. It is not just liquid filler. It is a transport system, a communication network, and a chemical environment all at once. And that brings us to the kidneys. The kidneys are easy to underestimate. Each one is only about the size of a fist. But together, they are one of the most precise filtration systems in the body. Every day, they filter a huge volume of fluid from the blood. But they do not simply remove waste. They sort. They choose. They reclaim what the body needs and allow waste to leave. The basic working unit of the kidney is called the nephron. Each kidney contains about 1 million of them. At one end of a nephron is a tiny knot of capillaries called the glomerulus. Blood enters under pressure, and water and small molecules are pushed into a capsule, almost like liquid passing through a very fine filter. Blood cells and large proteins stay in the blood. Smaller things pass through. Then the filtrate travels through a long, winding tubule. Here, the kidney reabsorbs valuable substances: glucose, amino acids, sodium, chloride, water. It sends them back into the blood. What remains becomes urine, concentrated mostly with waste products and excess substances. The kidneys also help regulate blood pressure by adjusting how much salt and water the body keeps. They help control blood pH, keeping it in a narrow range where enzymes and proteins can function. They produce erythropoietin, a hormone that tells the bone marrow to make more red blood cells when oxygen is low. So the kidneys are not just filters. They are regulators. They help maintain the internal world of the body. And that idea, maintaining a stable internal world, has a name: homeostasis. Homeostasis is one of the most important ideas in biology. It means that the body keeps its internal conditions within a workable range, even when the outside world changes. Temperature, blood sugar, hydration, oxygen, acidity, blood pressure. All of these are constantly monitored and adjusted. The basic pattern is often negative feedback. Think of a thermostat. If the room gets too cold, the heat turns on. When the room warms up, the heat turns off. The correction reduces the problem that triggered it. Your body uses this logic everywhere. Take temperature. Your core temperature stays around 37 degrees Celsius because that is where many enzymes work best. If you get too cold, your hypothalamus, a small control center in the brain, triggers shivering and narrows blood vessels near the skin to preserve heat. If you get too hot, it widens vessels near the skin and triggers sweating. As your temperature moves back toward normal, those responses fade. The system is not rigid. Your temperature changes through the day. Your blood pressure rises and falls. Your blood sugar moves after meals and between meals. The body is not trying to freeze everything in place. It is trying to keep everything inside a safe range, like a tightrope walker who never stops moving, but never falls. One of the most important homeostatic systems is blood sugar regulation. Your body uses glucose as a major fuel. Your brain depends heavily on it. Too little glucose, and you become shaky, confused, weak, even unconscious. Too much glucose over time, and it can damage blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, and eyes. The key hormone here is insulin. The story of insulin is one of the most important stories in modern medicine. By the late 19th century, doctors knew about diabetes. They knew patients had too much sugar in the blood and urine. They knew many lost weight and died, especially children with what we now call type 1 diabetes. They also knew the pancreas was involved, because removing the pancreas from animals caused severe diabetes. But they did not know how to extract the substance that controlled sugar. In the pancreas, there are tiny clusters of cells called the islets of Langerhans. Researchers suspected these cells produce something important. But the pancreas also makes digestive enzymes, and those enzymes destroyed the substance researchers were trying to isolate. Then Frederick Banting, a young Canadian surgeon, had an idea. If the digestive part of the pancreas could be made to shrink while the islets remained, perhaps the active substance could be extracted. He brought the idea to J.J. R. MacLeod at the University of Toronto. MacLeod gave him lab space, dogs, and a young assistant named Charles Best. Later, the biochemist James Collip helped purify the extract. In the summer of 1921, Banting and Best tested pancreatic extracts on diabetic dogs. The blood sugar dropped. The animals improved. The early extracts were crude, but the effect was real. In January 1922, the purified extract was given to a 14-year-old boy named Leonard Thompson. He was dying of diabetes. After the improved treatment, his blood sugar dropped dramatically. He gained weight. He lived. Before insulin, type 1 diabetes was usually a death sentence. After insulin, children who had been wasting away could leave the hospital. The substance was called insulin, from insula, meaning island, a reference to the islets of Langerhans. So how does insulin work? After you eat, carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, and glucose enters the blood. Blood sugar rises. Beta cells in the pancreas sense this and release insulin. Insulin travels through the bloodstream. and binds to receptors on cells, especially muscle and fat cells. It tells those cells to bring glucose inside. The liver also stores glucose as glycogen. As glucose leaves the blood sugar falls. Then, insulin release slows. Negative feedback again. There is also a partner hormone called glucagon. When blood sugar drops too low, glucagon tells the liver to release stored glucose back into the blood. Insulin lowers. Glucagon raises. Together, they keep glucose within a safe range. When this system fails, diabetes appears. In type 1 diabetes, the immune system destroys the insulin-producing beta cells. In type 2 diabetes, the body still makes insulin at first, but cells become resistant to it. The signal no longer works as well, and the pancreas must work harder. Eventually, it may not keep up. This is what makes the body so fascinating. Every system depends on communication. Hormones speak in the language of chemistry. Nerves speak in the language of electricity. The blood carries messages. The brain coordinates rhythms. The organs listen and respond. And one of the deepest rhythms in the body is the rhythm of day and night. Your body has an internal clock. The first clues came not from humans, but from plants. In 1729, a French scientist, Jean-Jacques Dortus de Maran, observed a mimosa plant whose leaves opened during the day and folded at night. He wondered whether the plant was simply responding to sunlight, so he placed it in darkness. The leaves kept moving on schedule. The plant had an internal rhythm. Humans do too. In your brain, the master clock sits in a tiny group of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. It is located near the place where the optic nerves cross, which is perfect because the clock needs light information. Special cells in the retina detect light, especially blue-rich daylight, and send timing signals to the SCN. Morning light tells the brain, "This is dawn." Reset the clock. The clock then helps coordinate rhythms throughout the body. Body temperature, hormones, digestion, alertness, blood pressure, immune activity, and sleep. Almost every cell has clock genes. Liver cells, heart cells, skin cells, immune cells, they all keep time. But they need the SCN to keep them synchronized, like an orchestra following one conductor. This is why shift work and jet lag can feel so terrible. It is not just tiredness, it is internal desynchronization. Your brain may be receiving one-time signal while your liver, gut, and hormones are operating on another schedule. One important messenger of darkness is melatonin. Melatonin is produced by the pineal gland. During the day, light suppresses it. As evening comes and light fades, melatonin rises. It does not knock you out like a sleeping pill. It is more subtle. It tells the body that night has arrived. It lowers body temperature slightly and helps prepare the whole system for sleep. But sleep is controlled by more than one system. There is the circadian clock, which tells you when sleep is appropriate, and there is sleep pressure, which builds the longer you stay awake. A molecule called adenosine seems to play a role in this pressure. As your brain uses energy, adenosine accumulates. The more it builds up, the sleepier you feel. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors. It does not remove the adenosine. It only hides the signal for a while. When caffeine wears off, the sleepiness can return all at once. So sleep happens when the clock says it is night, and the pressure says you have been awake long enough. For a long time, people thought sleep was passive, as if the brain simply switched off. But in 1953, Eugene Aserinsky and Nathaniel Kleitman discovered something strange. During certain periods of sleep, the eyes moved rapidly under the eyelids, and the brain became highly active. This was REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, the stage most associated with vivid dreaming. Sleep was not one state, it was a cycle. When you first fall asleep, you enter light sleep. Then stage 2, where sleep spindles and K complexes appear, electrical patterns that help protect sleep and organize memory. Then comes deep, slow-wave sleep, when the brain produces large, slow waves and the body performs some of its most important restoration. One of the most remarkable discoveries about deep sleep involves the glymphatic system. During sleep, the spaces between brain cells expand, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash through the brain and clear waste products. One of the waste products cleared is beta amyloid, a protein associated with Alzheimer's disease when it accumulates. In other words, your brain has a cleaning system, and it works best while you sleep. Deep sleep is also when the body releases strong pulses of growth hormone, supporting repair, muscle recovery, and immune function. The immune system also learns and responds better when sleep is adequate. Sleep is not a luxury, it is maintenance. After deep sleep, the brain cycles back toward lighter sleep and enters REM. During REM, the brain becomes active. Dreams become vivid, and the body is mostly paralyzed so you do not act out those dreams. REM seems deeply involved in emotional processing. The brain can revisit emotional memories in a different chemical environment, with less norepinephrine, less of the stress chemistry that usually sharpens fear. It is almost as if the brain is touching the memory again, but trying to soften the emotional edge. Sleep also helps memory. During deep sleep, the hippocampus replays experiences and helps transfer them toward long-term storage. During REM, memories may be integrated in creative ways, forming new connections and insights. So sleep is not empty time. It is sorting, cleaning, repairing, learning, regulating, and restoring. And while all of this is happening, the nervous system is coordinating the entire body. The story of nerve signals begins, strangely enough, with frog legs. In the late 1780s, Luigi Galvani noticed that frog legs twitched when sparks from a static electricity machine occurred nearby. He concluded that animal tissue contained its own form of electricity. His rival Alessandro Volta argued that the electricity came from metals used in the experiment. Volta's argument helped lead to the invention of the battery. But Galvani was also partly right. Living tissue does produce electrical signals. Later scientists measured these signals and found that nerve impulses did not travel instantly like electricity through a wire. They moved quickly, but not at the speed of light. Something biological and chemical was happening along the nerve. A neuron at rest has an electrical difference across its membrane. The inside is more negative than the outside. This is maintained by tiny protein pumps and the movement of ions like sodium and potassium. When a signal begins, sodium channels open and sodium rushes into the cell. The voltage flips. This is the action potential, the nerve impulse. Then potassium channels open, the voltage resets, and the signal moves to the next patch of membrane. It is like a line of dominoes, or like a stadium wave. The signal moves because each section of the neuron triggers the next. To make signals faster, many neurons are wrapped in myelin, a fatty insulating layer made by glial cells. Myelin allows the signal to jump from gap to gap between nodes of Ranvier. This makes nerve conduction much faster. When myelin is damaged, as in multiple sclerosis, signals become slower and less reliable. Muscles can weaken, coordination can suffer, vision can blur. The wire is still there, but the insulation is damaged. But neurons do not usually touch each other directly. Between them is a tiny gap called a synapse. When an electrical signal reaches the end of one neuron, it triggers the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These drift across the synapse and bind to receptors on the next neuron. Depending on the chemical and the receptor, they may excite the next neuron or inhibit it. This is where the brain's complexity truly appears. A single neuron can receive thousands of inputs. Some say fire. Some say stay quiet. The neuron adds them up, moment by moment. And if the signal crosses a threshold, it fires. Your brain contains around 86 billion neurons, each connected to many others. The number of possible patterns is beyond anything humans have built. Neurotransmitters shape mood, attention, movement, memory, sleep, and emotion. Dopamine is involved in motivation and reward prediction. Serotonin is involved in mood, gut function, and sleep. GABA calms neural activity. Glutamate excites it. Norepinephrine sharpens alertness and stress responses. The brain is always balancing excitation and inhibition. Too much excitation, and neurons can fire uncontrollably. Too much inhibition, and consciousness dims. Right now, your brain is balancing these forces quietly. But the nervous system is not only the brain. There is also the autonomic nervous system, which manages the body below awareness. Heart rate, breathing, digestion, blood pressure, pupil size, sweating. Many of the things that keep you alive without you having to remember them. It has two main branches. The sympathetic system is the accelerator. It prepares the body for action. Faster heart, wider airways, more blood to muscles, more adrenaline. The parasympathetic system is the brake. It slows the heart, supports digestion, conserves energy, and helps the body rest. Right now, lying quietly, your parasympathetic system is probably becoming more dominant. Your heart rate is settling. Your breathing is slower. Your body is entering maintenance mode. There is also the enteric nervous system located in the walls of your gut. It contains hundreds of millions of neurons and can coordinate many aspects of digestion on its own. Rhythmic contractions, enzyme release, blood flow, absorption. It is sometimes called the second brain. That phrase is not perfect, but it captures something important. Intelligence in the body is distributed. The brain is not controlling every tiny detail. Many systems manage themselves locally while still communicating with the whole. And now we come to the immune system. Because all night, while your heart beats and your brain drifts towards sleep, your immune system is protecting you from a world full of microorganisms. The first defenses are barriers. Your skin is a physical wall. It is dry, slightly acidic, and difficult for many microbes to cross. Tears contain enzymes that break bacterial walls. Mucus traps particles in the nose and airways. Tiny cilia sweep debris away. Stomach acid destroys many organisms that you swallow. Most threats never get past these barriers, but some do. A cut in the skin, a virus entering a cell, a bacterium surviving long enough to multiply. Then the immune system responds. The first major branch is the innate immune system. It is fast and general. It does not need to know the exact identity of the invader. It recognizes broad patterns found on pathogens but not on your own cells. Macrophages patrol tissues and engulf invaders. Neutrophils rush to sites of infection. They eat bacteria and often die in the process. Inflammation brings more blood flow, more immune cells, more chemical signals. The redness, heat, swelling, and pain around a wound are not random. They are signs of the immune system changing the local environment to fight infection. Fever can also be part of the defense. The hypothalamus raises the body's temperature set point. Many pathogens do not replicate as well at higher temperatures, and some immune processes work better. The innate system is powerful, but it is not very specific. For precision, the body uses the adaptive immune system. This system is extraordinary because it prepares for threats it has never seen. B cells and T cells are made with randomly generated receptors. Each cell has a unique shape it can recognize. The body creates a vast library of possible responses. Most will never be used. But if a pathogen appears with a matching shape, the right cells are activated and multiply. It is like making countless keys before you know which lock will appear. B cells can become plasma cells that produce antibodies. Antibodies bind to pathogens, neutralize them, and mark them for destruction. Some B cells become memory cells, staying in the body for years. That memory is the basis of vaccination. In 1796, Edward Jenner noticed that milkmaids who had caught cowpox seemed protected from smallpox. He inoculated a boy named James Phipps with material from a cowpox lesion, then later exposed him to smallpox. The boy did not become sick. Jenner did not know about antibodies or B cells, but he had demonstrated one of the most powerful ideas in medicine. The immune system can be trained. T cells handle another side of defense. Some T cells coordinate immune responses. Others kill infected cells, especially cells hiding viruses inside them. This matters because antibodies cannot always reach viruses once they are inside your cells. And the immune system, like everything else, is connected to the rest of the body. Sleep changes immune activity. Stress hormones can suppress parts of immunity. Circadian clocks affect when immune cells move through the blood. The gut microbiome helps educate the immune system. The nervous system communicates with immune organs. The blood carries immune cells. The kidneys and liver help clear waste from immune activity. Nothing in the body works alone. That may be the deepest lesson here. The heart pumps blood. Blood carries oxygen. Oxygen supports metabolism. Metabolism produces waste. The kidneys filter waste. The lungs remove carbon dioxide. The nervous system adjusts breathing, heart rate, digestion, blood pressure. The endocrine system sends hormones. The immune system watches for danger. The circadian clock sets rhythm. Sleep restores, cleans, repairs, and reorganizes. Every system touches every other system. And somehow, most of the time, it works. Not perfectly. Not forever. The body is fragile. It can be injured, overwhelmed, infected, exhausted. But it is also astonishingly resilient. It repairs wounds. It replaces cells. It remembers pathogens. It adjusts to heat and cold, hunger and rest, stress and calm. And right now, as you lie here, all of that is happening quietly. Your heart is still beating. Your blood is still moving. Your kidneys are still filtering. Your lungs are still exchanging gases. Your brain is still listening, translating sound into meaning, while also preparing itself for sleep. You do not have to command any of it. You do not have to understand every detail. You do not have to hold the whole system in your mind. For tonight, it is enough to notice the simple fact that your body is carrying you. It has carried you through every day you have ever lived, through every breath, every heartbeat, every meal, every fever, every night of sleep, every morning of waking up again. One of the most confusing parts of the body is that many of its systems are not separate at all. We name them separately because names help us think. Nervous system, immune system, digestive system, endocrine system, circulatory system, muscular system, skeletal system. But inside the body, they overlap constantly. The immune system is a good example. Many people imagine it like an army waiting for invaders. That image is useful, but incomplete. Your immune system is not only a defense force, it is also a recognition system. It must decide what belongs to you, what belongs with you, and what should be attacked. That is not easy. Your body is full of bacteria, fungi, and other microscopic life, especially in the gut and on the skin. Many of them are not enemies. They help digest food, train immune responses, compete with harmful microbes, and produce molecules that influence the body in subtle ways. So the immune system cannot simply destroy everything foreign. It has to judge context. Too weak a response, an infection can spread. Too strong a response, an inflammation can damage the very tissue it is trying to protect. Too confused a response, and the body can attack itself. Allergies, autoimmune conditions, chronic inflammation, healing, fever, swelling, and immune memory all come from this difficult balancing act. Fever itself is often misunderstood. It feels like something going wrong, and sometimes it can become dangerous. But fever is also one of the body's ancient strategies. By raising temperature, the body changes the environment in which microbes are trying to survive and signals that the immune system has shifted into a different state. The discomfort is real, but it is not random. It is part of a coordinated response. The endocrine system works in another quiet language: hormones. Hormones are chemical messages carried through the blood. They do not move as fast as nerve signals, but they can shape the whole body over minutes, hours, days, or years. Insulin helps regulate blood sugar. Thyroid hormones influence metabolism. Cortisol helps coordinate stress responses. Melatonin helps signal night. Sex hormones shape development, fertility, mood, tissue behavior, and many rhythms of life. This is why the body can feel different depending on sleep, food, stress, sunlight, age, illness, and emotion. You are not only a brain riding inside a machine. You are a chemistry of messages. Your thoughts influence your body, and your body influences your thoughts. Stress shows this clearly. A sudden danger can increase heart rate, sharpen attention, change breathing, release glucose, and prepare muscles for action. That response can save a life. But when stress becomes constant, the same systems that were meant for short-term survival can wear on sleep, digestion, immunity, blood pressure, mood, and memory. The body is not confused when this happens. It is using old survival tools in a modern world that often keeps the alarm bell ringing too long. Sleep is another strange and essential process. From the outside, sleep looks like shutdown. But inside, the brain and body are active in different ways. Memories are reorganized. Hormones shift. Immune activity changes. Waste-clearing processes in the brain become more active. Muscles relax. Dreams appear. The sense of self loosens. You disappear from the waking world for hours, yet your body does not abandon you. It repairs, regulates, sorts, and resets. And then there is consciousness, perhaps the deepest mystery in the human body. The brain is made of cells. Those cells exchange electrical and chemical signals. The signals follow physical rules, and yet, from this activity, there is experience, color, sound, pain, memory, love, fear, imagination, prayer, music, and the feeling of being someone. Science can map brain regions. It can measure activity. It can see how injury changes personality, how sleep changes awareness, how drugs alter perception, how memory depends on networks, and how emotion shapes attention. But the direct feeling of experience remains hard to explain completely. This does not mean consciousness is magic in the simple sense. It means the body still contains questions that are not easily reduced to a single diagram. You are made of biology, but you are not easy to summarize. Even aging is not one process. Cells accumulate damage. DNA repair becomes less perfect. Proteins misfold. Mitochondria become less efficient. Stem cell activity changes. Hormones shift. The immune system changes character. Some cells stop dividing, but remain active in ways that influence surrounding tissue. The body does not simply run down like a clock. It changes through many interacting pathways. And yet, through all of this, it keeps trying to maintain balance. That word, balance, may be the closest simple description of the living body. Temperature balance, fluid balance, blood sugar balance, oxygen and carbon dioxide balance, acid and base balance, sleep and waking, inflammation and repair, hunger and fullness, effort and rest. Life is not stillness. Life is controlled change. Even pain, as unpleasant as it is, belongs to this protective language. Pain is not a simple measurement of damage. It is an experience created by the nervous system when the brain decides that something may need protection. Sometimes pain matches injury closely. Sometimes it lasts after tissue has healed. Sometimes stress, fear, attention, poor sleep, and past experience can turn the volume higher. This does not make pain imaginary. It means pain is produced by a living system trying to interpret danger. That is why the body can be so difficult to understand from the outside. A scan may show damage without much pain. A person may feel serious pain without obvious damage on a scan. The body is not a machine with one light for one problem. It is a network of signals, thresholds, memories, and meanings. Healing works the same way. A cut is not repaired by a single command. Blood vessels narrow, then clotting begins. Immune cells arrive. Inflammation clears debris. New tissue forms. Collagen is laid down and remodeled. The scar that remains is not just a mark. It is evidence that the body negotiated with damage and found a way to close the opening. Breathing is another ordinary miracle. You can control it for a moment, slow it down, hold it, deepen it, or speak through it. But when you stop paying attention, the body takes over again. Carbon dioxide levels, acidity, oxygen needs, emotion, posture, and sleep state all influence the rhythm. Breath sits at a rare crossroads between conscious choice and automatic survival. That is why slow breathing can feel calming. It is not magic. It is a way of speaking back to the nervous system in a language the body understands. And beneath all of this are cells renewing, repairing, dividing, communicating, dying when they are supposed to, and being replaced when the body can replace them. Some cells live only a short time. Others stay with you for many years. Some parts of you are constantly changing. Other parts carry continuity. So the body is both stable and temporary. You are not made from exactly the same arrangement you were made from years ago, and yet you remain yourself. Your body is never frozen in a perfect state. It is always adjusting, always correcting, always sensing, always asking, in its own silent way, what has changed and what must be done now? And now, in the dark, it continues, quietly, patiently, automatically, a living universe under your skin. So let your breathing slow, let your muscles soften. Let the systems that have always worked beneath your awareness keep doing what they know how to do. Your heart can keep its rhythm. Your lungs can keep their gentle tide. Your brain can begin to drift. And you can rest, because for now, there is nothing more you need to control. The body is still working, and you can sleep.